Hello, everybody, and welcome back to F1 Unhinged. As always, I'm Tyler,
I'm Josh.
and it was a boring weekend with very little racing. I think we had the 6 hours of Sao Paulo.
8.
I thought it was six.
I think it's 8.
I'm pretty sure it's six.
Is it?
Yeah,
Are you
and
sure?
then yeah, I'm very strong in my confidence with this one.
You might be right.
I'm waiting for confirmation.
All right, you win this one.
Fuck yeah, let's go.
You were bound to be right eventually.
So yeah, we had the 6 hours of Sao Paulo, Brazil with WEC. I didn't get to catch a whole lot of it. I really just caught like some in car view of the race, but then I got really bored because it doesn't have anything on it besides just the car. You don't even know what fucking driver it is unless you look at the title of the video. And then I caught the like last 4.5 minutes uh of the race on like TNT or whatever channel it was on. And then we had Echopark for Nascar, and that was a thing.
It was awesome minus the rain delay that took forever.
That was like 4 hours of waiting.
Being up till 2 in the morning to watch a NASCAR race wasn't my perfect ideal for a night.
No, mine either.
Is and for not having F1, we sure had a lot of F1.
Yeah, just a lot of talk and a lot of rumors and things swirling. I guess we could probably just start with that. That'll probably be the meat of our conversation anyway. We saw Red Bull potentially has an insanely large interest in Oliver Behrman to replace Max
The Red Bull
potentially.
situation is so weird depending on who you believe at this point. It's there are so many teams Max could or could not be racing for next year. It's it's obvious something's happening. Now, whether what's happening is just leverage, it's hard to say. What did come out is there is a big disagreement higher up at Red Bull between Oliver Mitzlaff and Mark Mateschitz, Dietrich Mateschitz's son. And that's very much over Max Verstappen, where surprisingly, the younger Mateschitz wants nothing to do with Max anymore. If rumors are to be believed, and some of these did come from decent sources, so I won't shoot them down. He is very angry at Max's lack of loyalty during the new rules and his lack of long-term commitment. And to him, what it comes down to is they're trying to hire better engineers and better staff, and it's hard to get them to commit without a commitment from Max. So they're struggling to get some of the back end talent that they need because Max won't commit for even the short term.
Maybe y'all shouldn't have fucked up and put an exit clause like that in his contract.
Well, in fairness to Mark, he wasn't a part of that decision.
I don't give a fuck about fairness in this regard.
This is becoming a thing.
I just don't understand what leverage that Max feels like would be better for him in order to stick around at Red Bull, because at the end of the day, the core problem is the driving and the car.
It could be something as simple as they're not agreeing over what to address in the car. And there could be some, Max is heavily involved in engineering. There could be some arguments there that he's trying to throw his weight around. Of course, this is all just guessing.
Yeah,
I
it's also a very short term view thing for the Red Bull organization if they're gonna let Max have that kind of leverage because he could be unhappy again next year or the year after that and trigger his exit clause again. Like, it just seems very short sighted on both sides to kind of use that kind of leverage. He's already had that kind of power and control in the past, you know?
and this is the first time that it really seems like he's exercising it, which it won't become official till Belgium. After the Belgium race is when he can officially opt out.
Do you think uh Matishitz is more mad that Max won't allow a buyout of that clause, and that's why he wants him gone because his
I
money
think
won't
the
do
fact
anything.
that Max is holding so tightly to that clause. Yeah.
I mean,
I think it's the fact that he won't forego that clause even for money, which, you know, not trying to be ranty, but there's not a lot of rich dudes who are used to hearing no when they throw a bunch of money.
yeah, I was literally just gonna say that. I was like, it's got to be just like he's got his panties in a bunch because his money won't buy Max.
Well, but in fairness, there is a legitimate problem that they're going through right now, which is if you are trying to poach some important people that won't commit unless they have Max, that is a recruiting problem. And we know Red Bull have been hemorrhaging people, which it is starting to annoy me a little bit. Not that they're losing people, but the way that it's framed. People aren't leaving because they hate Red Bull all of a sudden. This is what happens every time a team is at the top of the ladder. There's a reason why there's a Mercedes engine team all over the grid in everybody's garage now. Because Mercedes was super successful, and then their guys left for higher roles elsewhere. And also in the cost cap era, those guys become worth more and more and more money, and you can't retain all of them. Yes, some losses, I'm sure, like Jonathan Wheatley, you didn't want, and Adrian Newey. Those are losses that you would have liked to not have. But they're also a casualty of success. It's not just failure that makes you lose people, it's success.
Yeah, success can too.
Because they're coveted for other roles and people are willing to throw money at them. GP is a great example of that, to where McLaren apparently threw so much money at him that even Max told him it would be stupid for you to turn this down. That's a benefit of success for the people involved, but it's a problem for the team. And that's just reality. It's not like people are leaving Red Bull because it's this horrible environment. I hate the way that keeps floating around. Like, let's not act like this doesn't happen every time somebody's successful.
Yeah, that's valid. I like we've seen, and we didn't really touch on it, but we've seen speculation that Red Bull's heavily interested in Ollie Behrman to replace Max, and I'm heavily convicted that Max isn't going to another team. He's just going to leave F1 and go race in other series like GT and whatever other racing series he wants to. And here's my reasoning: he's very unhappy driving these regulations of cars. He's made it abundantly clear, and we've talked about this a million times at this point. You can go back to many episodes where we talked about it. He's been shouting from the mountains since the regulations were announced in 2023. I don't think going to another team is going to make him happier racing these cars. What I do think would make him happier is enjoying racing in other series and also having more time to spend with his daughter and his wife and his stepchild, more time with his family, because the F1 calendar is extremely busy. there's what was supposed to be 24 races this season. It goes from March all basically from January to December. When you think about like preseason testing and all the other, responsibilities of the driver, they finished the last race at like the middle of December, and then they come back the middle of January. They get like a month off. And obviously there's silly season, which I think is from the 23rd of this month or the 28th of this month to the 23rd of August. They don't race, but I think he'd be more inclined to leave F1 to spend more time with his family and also get to enjoy dabbling in other series and racing in funner cars.
I don't agree. I don't agree for two reasons. One, he asked for a rule change and got it. Within 2 years, he is getting exactly what he wanted from the rules. Starting next year, meeting him halfway there, then the next year, it's the 60-40 split that he asked for, that a lot of fans asked for. And I also think there's some ego. I think he wants to. I think he wants one more to prove it. Because most of these guys who have won championships, and I'll lump Vettel and Hamilton, though I put an asterisk beside Hamilton because he did win one for McLaren. But most of these guys who win multiple titles do it in a row. In a nice stretch when there's a rule set to where their car is the best. I do wonder if being back close to the front again is giving Max an inclination of really wanting one more.
I mean, it's possible.
I still think he only has a couple years left in F1, but it just doesn't feel done to me yet. He doesn't feel done. I don't think he'd have this much frustration if he was done. I think if he was mentally done, he would feel a
Visibly
bit
check
more.
out.
Yeah. I think he'd feel a little bit more like Fernando right now. But I think the fact that he's so frustrated shows that fire is still there, and that fire is what matters. Now, this situation could get ugly. He could decide he wants out and not have a landing spot. I think that's a ridiculous thought. I'll call every team principal in F1 a liar if they said they wouldn't go after a free agent Max Verstappen. They're all fucking liars. Everyone who says no. Maybe outside of Ferrari. I'll believe Ferrari.
Yeah.
Because they have their legacy pick in Leclerc and Hamilton. They're probably the only team who doesn't need a Max.
But there's really only two teams on the grid outside of Ferrari that are like appetizing for Max to go to, and that's Mercedes and McLaren.
And I just think environment wise, he won't fit Mercedes.
Oh, absolutely not. No.
Mercedes, I don't think are willing to pay him what he's worth. And I also don't think they're willing to let him do as many extracurriculars, and not even for the reason most people think. I think because he's so close to Kimi, they don't want Max influencing Kimi. They want Kimi to be more like George, not like Max.
Yeah. I'd agree with that.
And McLaren, Zach Brown's a greedy bastard who just wants to win.
Yeah.
I'm convinced Zach would sell his own mother for a championship. Selling Oscar down the road to get Max. I don't even think he'll have a second guess about it.
I don't even view it as Oscar going to Red Bull, because we've also heard from sources that Oscar could go to Audi, which would be awesome for me because
I'll
I'm
believe
already an Oscar fan,
I'll
but
believe that
I'm
when
also
I see it.
An Audi fan.
I If Oscar becomes free, I could see George Russell getting punted quicker than you or I could blink because he's a perfect second driver.
Well, he wouldn't get punted to Red Bull then because they already have a second driver.
I Look,
And you would hate it if he went to Red
I
Bull.
know I sound fucking crazy, but I still think the best thing Red Bull can do if they're going to be without Max is to not bring in anyone from the outside, promote either Lawson or Lindblad, bring in Soloff, and
Start fresh.
rebuild while you're rebuilding.
Yeah.
Red
Yeah.
Bull is not going to win a title next year without Max.
How would you feel about George going to Red Bull and having to root for George Russell?
Who says I have to root for George Russell?
That's valid. But then you're kind of wanting the team to succeed on his coattails while also wanting him to bend into a wall. So it's a very conflicting way to sit as a fan of a team.
George isn't worth the money.
No, he's not.
And I just, George would have to invent a new personality to get along at Red Bull.
And I don't think that's possible.
I
And it also just it'd feel fake. You know?
I just don't see him fitting in that environment, in that garage, because you know, one thing you've learned from guys like Callum Nichols, they love the way that Max is aggressive. They want that. And you know, it reminds me of the conversation we were having earlier about Spire Motorsports and Carson Hocevar. Other people may not like how aggressive he is, but his team and his garage love it. They love the guy that he is. And Red Bull loves aggressive drivers. They want heroes. They don't want guys who are okay with sitting back in the pack.
How do you think Ollie fits into that mold then, if that was to come to fruition?
Ollie's a badass.
I agree. I
He's
think he can be aggressive as fuck too.
he's dunking on Ocon, who we all think is a pretty serviceable driver.
And has been with the team way longer.
But I do think their situation is complicated by how well their RB drivers are right now. It'd be a different story if those guys weren't performing, but both of them are performing their asses off. I mean, we talked about it last week, but you know, we talked a lot about Lawson and how good he looks, but I also don't want to take anything away from Lindblad because as a rookie that a lot of people thought wasn't ready for the series
I
because
thought he's going to be a wrecking ball.
he was what, just turned 18 a few months before the season started. You know, extremely young driver, bit of a history of crashing into things. Granted, the guy he had a history of crashing into got dropped immediately from Red Bull because of how many times he crashed into people. So maybe some of Arvid's crashing into people was
Not his fault entirely.
yes. So maybe that's how they looked at it. But kid's been absolutely phenomenal. You know, the fact that he's getting outperformed by his teammate, I don't see as a bad thing because of how talented that teammate is.
Yeah, that's
And
fair.
now you have Soloff coming on in the background, who's the first guy in F2 history to win 3 races in a row. And you're trying to figure out who places where when. And I know I sound ridiculous, But I think long term for Red Bull, they're at risk of losing a good driver if they don't have an open seat sometime soon.
That's very valid.
Which I think is maybe why some of this internal argument in Red Bull has started to happen. Because I feel like a few people, including Matishitz, want to call Max's bluff and see if he'd really leave.
I feel like that's a bull you don't want to test. Pun intended.
It's going to make the summer break very interesting because I have a feeling we're going to know before we come back for the Dutch Grand Prix.
Know where he goes, or just know if he's staying or leaving?
I think both will happen at the same time. If he's leaving, I think we'll know where he's leaving to when he's leaving.
At that same time, we'll find out if Piastri has another team or not. I mean,
I just don't see him going anywhere but McLaren.
I don't either. I mean, there's really, like I said, there's only Mercedes and McLaren, and I don't think Mercedes is going to budge with him. I think McLaren is literally coming all over themselves, more specifically Zach Brown, to get Max into a seat. And Oscar's not necessarily the happiest at McLaren, and his manager has made it abundantly clear that he doesn't like it at McLaren.
Though I don't know if you saw Mark Webber's statement. He just came out with a statement a couple days ago, basically calling the media liars and saying there's no problems with him and McLaren and no problems with Oscar and McLaren, and they plan on staying there.
I did see that, but I'm putting a bunch of salt on it. It's all PR speak.
Yeah. In F1, everybody's happy till they're gone.
Yeah, 100%.
There's a lot of interesting moving parts in this, and I don't really. This is the first time I really feel like Max could actually be gone.
I feel like you said that last year too, but
yeah, well, a lot of things were different last year.
It's an ever flowing up and down roller coaster.
Well, and I mean, the big thing last year that changed things was finally getting a grip on what was wrong with the car. And for Max to be able to fight towards the front again. I think the difference this time is that nobody's listening to Max, and that's the problem. Whereas Matishitz feels like Max should show more loyalty with his exit clause. I feel like Max is feeling a lack of loyalty for the team refusing to listen to his opinions.
I think that's extremely valid.
And maybe that's being done on purpose. Maybe it's not. I don't know. It's hard to say. But it feels like Max and GP are on an island right now.
Yeah. And I mean, we have to mention that Yas, Max's manager, and Helmut Marko met after the race last weekend.
Yeah, which is really fucking odd.
Because Marko is not involved with Red Bull at all anymore. Which also it brings up the question:
with any team,
at least that we know of yet. It's not. I don't. I mean, it could be just like an advisory type thing. Like they want to loop Marko in and see what he thinks. But I don't think that is the case.
It could be though. It could be trying to get a read on what's going on at the new Red Bull corporate, because that's who Marko was fired by.
Could be, or Helmut Marko goes to McLaren too.
That would never happen. Not in a million years.
It'd be wild though if it did.
But what's also interesting is the Christian Horner element, because Max had a very interesting quote. I don't know if you caught it during the race weekend, but he and Christian still talk at minimum weekly.
I did see that, yeah. And it was like a like a press conference type thing or like something
Uh,
like that.
I guess he and Horner talk all the time still, which surprises me. I didn't think that they were on those kind of terms. And we know Christian's coming back. We don't know where.
Ben Salam basically said it himself. He's just too much of a cuck to say where.
Well, and in fairness, I'm glad he's not, because it isn't his business to give out.
No, but he's also trying to make himself look more important than he actually is by saying he knows.
Well, he has to know, he has to approve certain stuff. But it's that's another question hanging over this. Where is Christian going?
Could you see him having a seat at the FIA?
No, I think so. So I think Christian's going to take over a team, but Christian's not stupid. He's going to make sure he has a Newey deal now, where he's getting options in the team, so he can't be fired like he was just fired by Red Bull. I think he's going to make sure that can never be a possibility. Just like Zach Brown can't be fired, just like Lawrence Stroll can't be fired because he owns the whole fucking thing. But similar with Newey, where Newey really can't be fired because he owns part of the company now, like Toto Wolff with Mercedes. I think that's a situation Christian's going to look for, and I think there's only really one team that offers that. Maybe Audi would, maybe
I don't think they would. I
to
really
to
don't.
to replace what they lost with Jonathan Wheatley, to bring Christian in as a team principal and giving him buy into the company. I, I
I
could I could
I
potentially see that.
I think it could be smart, but I don't think Audi would do that.
They could have very quickly realized they bit off more than they could chew.
That's valid.
And let's not forget, Christian Horner built what has now become a successful engine program with the Red Bull Ford partnership. That's his baby. He doesn't get any credit for it, but he's the one that built that. He's the one that made that work. And let's not forget Max is human. There were a lot of reasons they wanted Christian gone. Since Christian's left, Red Bull has kind of been a train wreck. And they are struggling to build a good car. It's the one thing they never struggled to do under Christian. They figured it out. You know, there's a lot of talk of the rebound they did last year, but let's not forget, those things had to be greenlit by Christian. You just don't mid-season develop things. No, those are in the pipeline for a really long time. It takes about a half a season to get anything developed and on the car. So that second half improvement was things that Christian was a part of. And seeing what they've been without, and you know, maybe 2020 reverse vision, they're kind of wishing that was still the guy running the team. I think the more likely option for Christian is buying a stake in Alpine,
And hopefully kicking out Flavio Briatore.
but he would at least take that job. Which, I mean, technically he's not a team principal anyway, but Christian Horner would take that COO, CEO, some form of that job, probably a COO with Flavio CEO or something like that. But it might not even be Alpine by that point. We don't know. But that could be a very interesting prospect. Alpine have a Mercedes engine. Now, Horner and Gasly don't really like each other,
Not at all.
which Gasly kind of earned. You don't talk shit to Adrian Newey in the middle of the garage. Probably dumb.
Definitely dumb.
Don't blame him for why you're slow. That's not a good idea, even if it might have some truth to it. It's fucking Adrian Newey. Be common. But you want to know a Hail Mary that could happen that I'm not sure if it will?
Sure.
Christian taking over Alpine and bringing Jonathan Wheatley with him. Christian takes over as basically a Zach Brown and installs Wheatley as a team principal, but in like a Stella role where both of them are there pretty much every weekend running the show, but one's technically team principal and one's overseeing all the other stuff. The team principal handles the more technical stuff, while Christian, like a Zach, is dealing with the commercial stuff. I could see a role like that with Wheatley not really having anywhere to land right now, and it being uncertain whether he's going to actually end up at Alp or at Aston.
I think the only thing that would not be to Wheatley's benefit is the fact that he's kind of created a name for himself in the paddock in not a great way by basically taking on the TP job and then literally 2 months later soliciting an opportunity from another team. There's a lot of trust lost around the grid, I'm assuming, with that type of behavior as a TP.
Yeah, but Christian has a history with him. That's what I'd do. If I was in the shoes of Alpine and I was in the shoes of Christian Horner, if you're making a deal like that, that's what I would do. Put Christian in control of commercial, a little bit higher level, install an everyday team principal that's all about the technical and how things work. He was an amazing sporting director for Red Bull. Throw him into that role, throw him into the team principal role at Alpine. He will, if nothing else, make sure their operations are perfect. And then you have Christian with a Mercedes engine.
See, I thought your Hail Mary was somehow he ends up back at Red Bull.
I don't think that happens.
I think that's a very far fetched
They paid him a
like
lot of
dream.
money not to be there.
Yeah, that's true.
Which, I mean, not that I have a problem with Laurent Mekies. I just think,
No, I think he's doing a great job as a TP. I just think he doesn't know how to build a car in the same way Christian did.
well, and I think Red Bull have this bad problem of not listening to their drivers enough. And the more engineers on that team, it seems the more they're willing to listen to outside opinions. And you can't go from Mekies calling Max the greatest sensor you could have on a car to then not listening to him. And they
That's true.
even disagreed at the end of the race where Mekies thought that they couldn't get up to a third or a fourth if they started from pit lane, and Max thinking they definitely could, especially because they had a safety car that could have helped them out. Which, I mean, at that point, even if you finish sixth, it's better than not finishing, which is what they ended up doing. And now they had to meet with the FIA over their rear wing because it's trying to kill their driver.
Yeah. I think we should give some flowers to a former F1 driver.
Yeah,
Uh,
K Mag got his first WEC win.
and in the BMW hypercar.
Yep. You know, they've been close a couple times. They've had really bad luck, and there was, earlier this year they kind of played the team game to help their teammate get a win. So, they really earned this. That's been a pretty solid team. I think BMW's kind of went under the radar, but as a team, this is their second win this year. Each car has one, and with how good Cadillac and Ferrari have been, and the random resurgence of Toyota and then them falling away again, who knows what the hell's going on with them? But I think BMW are doing a good job of asserting themselves in WEC. I think the way that I expected them to be a year or two ago, I didn't think it would take them this long to feel like a top team. But I mean, they've really put it together this year, and maybe didn't perform at Le Mans the way that they thought they should. But overall through the year, I feel like they've done really good.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean they looked damn good from the things that I saw during that race at
Yeah,
Sao Paulo.
they had a solid race. Uh, I'm interested what would have happened if that rain that came at the end of the race would have come a little bit earlier. That could have really screwed things up. And I'm actually impressed the drivers managed to finish the last couple laps, because that rain, especially on the last lap, started fucking coming down. And we know how it can rain in Brazil.
Oh yeah,
We I mean, was it last year that we had the big rain in F1 at Sao Paulo?
it was either last year or the year before. I can't fully remember.
But I mean, when it rains there, it can downpour, and that's a track that, because of its elevation change, quickly floods in spots. And props, like super props to really the whole field for being able to get through, the last lap or two when the rain started. But major kudos for K Mag and his team. They finally pull it off. It's been a long time since K Mag's been in the victory lane, so I'm sure that feels wonderful for him.
Oh yeah, Cadillac also seemed to have some pretty decent results for the
Cadillac
hypercar.
should have won every race this year, and they keep getting in their own ways a lot.
Sounds like somebody else that we'll talk
Yeah,
about in a little bit.
yeah. It just, Cadillac should have won several races that they haven't, and that includes Cadillac and IMSA, which they use pretty much the same lineup, same cars. From Daytona on, Cadillac is had some success, but they've also had a lot of "damn, you should have won that" moments. And I feel like for them, they're going to look back on this year and regret a lot, because they had a lot of chances that they've let go, either through mistakes, penalties, incidents, bad strategy, you name it. Something's caught them in a lot of different races.
Yeah. But who I feel like there's a small rant maybe in this. Who got in their own way this weekend that has you super fucking pissed?
I'm not pissed. It's one of those. I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. And Bubba, man, Bubba Wallace. Boy, he managed to turn having the second best car into a what the fuck weekend really quick. Typical Atlanta, the Toyotas qualified in the back. Happens pretty much every time they're at super speedways. You get to a drafting track, they're slow, but they're really good in the race. And you can see that right away. All the Toyotas found their way to the front in the first stage very quickly. Bubba recorded the second fastest lap of the race. Would have been the fastest lap of the race, but one of the back markers got the fastest lap towards the end. Gets spun trying to make a block at the end of stage two. One of those things that can happen. Did a really good job to save the car and not take any damage. Managed to, through strategy, drive his way back up. I will say I thought his team fucked up the strategy a bit. I I I know it's hard to pit from the lead, but I thought that was the right call because in the last stop, when a lot of guys took two tires, he didn't take any. So he had been a really long time since he had gotten tires. And I think it showed on that last run of him just missing that last bit of speed that he needed to clear Blaney, because there were a few times he got beside him and couldn't clear him. And I think if he at least puts on right sides, he might be able to hold that line. But you could tell he would plow tight. It was basically like every 2 or 3 laps you would see he'd get behind somebody and plow a little bit tight and lose some speed. And then he had a chance to win it. And I think he let that
opportunity just completely mess up his judgment.
Yeah, which in fairness, it got 4 wide really quick. And I don't necessarily like this rule in those situations because I felt like so Bubba got penalized for going below the line and making a pass. He put 2 wheels below the line. But I also feel like he had to do that out of safety to a point because the way everybody fanned out, I don't like the idea that you can block somebody below the line and then they can't pass you. Because to me, that says, all right, I'll just stick my place and hook your fender and send you across into the wall because I can't move below this line. So I'll just wreck you out of my way. Because I won't get a penalty for wrecking you, but I'll get a penalty for going below the line. And I don't think that is the right way to do things.
No. And I mean,
it's a rule made for safety that I feel like makes things unsafe.
Yeah, but also I believe that you should be able to at least get 2 tires over the line, like in F1. You're not considered off track unless all 4 tires are clearly over the white line.
At the same time, I get why they made the rule because they were having a problem of people doing that and causing wrecks as they get to the corner. You know, everybody spreading, somebody going 2 wheels below the line and then trying to get back in line by the time the corner comes, but you're never going to stay all the way to the bottom when that happens. So it creates a big wreck. I understand the reason for the rule. I just think there should be some nuance in it. If you were going down there to avoid something and you just happen, because one of the 4 cars was slowing up. So 3 cars went around a car that was stuck in the middle and checked up. I think in that case, yes, Bubba got past someone, but I think in that case, those should be okay. But it's not, and that's the rule. He knows the rule. We all know the rule. He dipped 2 tires below the line, finishes second, but gets knocked back to the end of the lead lap, which is 29th, and cost himself
like 30-something
36 points, which...
Well, I think he could have made 46 points. So it would have been 35 points that he cost himself because he made 9 points.
You're rounded on the wrong side of that.
Oh, well.
It'd be 37.
I never said I was good at math, okay?
I know what you were doing. You just did it the wrong way.
Yeah. Damn dyslexia. God damn it.
But those extra 37 points would have been big. He would be... It wouldn't change his position, but he would be a lot closer to Byron and a lot further away from guys chasing him. And this is one of those races where I expected Bubba to be good. I expected him to take advantage of things. He loves Atlanta. 2311 love Atlanta. Toyotas love Atlanta. They're always fast. He always runs good.
And to be fair, he did do those things.
He just has no points to show.
Yeah.
He only got points in the first stage
Yeah.
because he got
Yeah.
spun out in the second stage. And the third stage, he ends up 29th. So you go from having a huge point scoring day fighting for the win to a harsh, but that's what the rule is, penalty that throws you to the back of the lead lap. And that hurts. Because let's not forget the last race of the regular season is Daytona, where you can be anywhere from first to wrecked out really easily for things beyond your control.
Yeah.
That is not a track you want to go to needing a finish.
And needing to show results out of desperation.
Yeah. You would like to go to that race knowing no matter what happens, you're in the top 14. Right now, he's not in that situation. And it's not Daytona yet, but you're not all that far away.
Mm-mm.
So,
Besides the long rain delay, it was from like 8:25 is when they pulled the red flag till I think they didn't get like moving in their cars until like 11:45, and the race didn't actually get resumed again until probably closer to 12:15.
yeah, it was a 3+ hour rain delay. I forget the exact amount, but it was three something.
It was gnarly. But I loved the finish. Like that was a fantastic finish, and also my boy Blaney swept all three stages, also pulled the win.
Yeah.
I'm stoked for the weekend because he was a fucking
Blaney's
rocket.
car, Jesus.
He was a rocket.
Whatever they did, they need to do that more often. The Fords have had a really rough year, and that's the first time a Ford car has just been out and away that much better. Because even Blaney's win earlier in the year at where did he win at? He won at Phoenix, I think. Um, he was great, but he wasn't that much better than everybody. And granted, we're talking about a photo finish, but a photo finish of a race that he controlled up until that point.
Yeah.
I will say the schedule coming ahead, really, really fucking interesting tracks.
What's next?
So we have the big change in the schedule this year where North Wilkesboro, instead of being the All-Star race, is an actual points race. So we go serious short track racing. That's next. The nice little 450 laps at North Wilkesboro. And then back to the Brickyard 400. Then you have Iowa, Richmond, New Hampshire, and Daytona to finish the regular season. So,
Very interesting.
in respect to looking at guys like Bubba, all these are tracks that Bubba does well at. He's got to make a gap.
And I think the make or break for him is how desperate he gets and what that desperation leads to choice wise for him.
He's got to do his best not to be desperate.
He's got to do his best to not Bubba himself.
I don't want to call this one fully Bubbing himself
No,
because
I won't. And I didn't even say in the group chat last night when it happened. I didn't.
It was a harsh
mistake.
result. It was a harsh result.
Yeah, it was an easy mistake to make, and he didn't dip into the line at the finish. This was like several laps before. as he was fighting to get back to second.
Well,
I think he had dipped to sixth when it went four wide into one of the turns, and that's when it happened.
and for that, even the commentators didn't agree. So Steve Letarte and Jamie McMurray had a bit of a disagreement on the penalty. And part of it is because the data does show that Bubba lifted. And
You usually only lift when you want to avoid collision.
well, and his argument is that he didn't gain a position below the line because he lifted, basically. That there was a lift and that he didn't make the pass until he was back above the line. Whereas he got penalized because NASCAR believed that him going below the line gave him the run. I disagree. I agree with Bubba, but of course I'm going to agree with Bubba. Bubba's my favorite driver.
Yeah, yeah, that's
But
valid.
I, it sucks for him to lose the points. That's what I don't like about this. Is you're losing a lot of points for something that I feel like isn't that big of a deal. But that's just me.
It's unfortunately just one of those things that happens.
And I mean, look, I have rose tinted glasses here. You can't see, but I got the Red Bull flag over here, and then I have a Bubba Wallace wall over here. Like, obviously, I have a rooting interest in that discussion, so I'm not going to pretend that I don't. And of course, I'm going to side on the side of thinking the guy I'm rooting for shouldn't have a penalty for something so trivial.
Yeah, which is valid.
If it was Kyle Larson, I'd be screaming for a penalty all day long. So I can acknowledge my hypocrisy. It was nice watching him,
Been it twice.
do his midsummer pirouettes that he does every year. I guess this year he decided Atlanta instead of Charlotte. But I think he wrecked at Charlotte too, didn't he?
I think so.
I can tell Larson's been wrecking a lot lately. Wonder if he's over pushing.
Could be. Definitely could be.
I mean, some's just been bad luck, but this week wasn't. He had two spins that were kind of like, eh. And we don't have this penalty if he doesn't spin.
True.
So I'm blaming Kyle again, damn it. No.
Fuck you, Kyle. You killed Kenny.
I do want to give some flowers to Hocevar too. Another big good finish for Hocevar. He's really climbing up there on those points, man. He
came back from the back of the field too, because somewhere I think in stage 2 he got a flat. It was after the restart, after the rain delay. He got a left front flat.
Yeah, and fought back, but which tells you how crazy that race was, because he got a flat, Bubba got spun, and both of them were fighting for the lead at the end. And it helps because you can get away with less tires there. So you can make a more risky strategy call, and it doesn't affect you as much because there's so much draft.
But there was no rubber on the track, so that track was going to eat those tires at the restart.
Which I'm surprised those tires lasted so long for so many guys with how rough the surface was after the rain.
That and how few actual wrecks there were. We didn't see any crazy pileups or multi-car accidents. I think Larson wrapped up another driver in his second crash.
Yeah.
But
the first one, I think somebody got caught up in that too.
Yeah, I think otherwise it was just one or two car wrecks. When typically lately this season you've been seeing massive wrecks that take out.
There were so many moments that looked like we were going to have a big wreck, and somehow just avoided it. There were Van Gisbergen got really squirrely once, and I was like, "Oh, here comes the pack," and he managed to save it. Nobody got in the back of him. You know that there were when Bubba sent Blaney up high, and Blaney bounced off the wall. I thought that was going to start a big checkup in the back, and it didn't. There were a few of those situations where I'm like, "Oh, here comes a big one," and it just never happened. And credit to the drivers, like despite being 1 in the morning, they all were really on their shit.
And especially like going 4 wide into a lot of
Yeah,
situations.
yeah,
Like,
because it really got aggressive once they got back to green. It was immediate aggression because there was some worry that another rain cell might come through before the race was over. So there was some thought that maybe the whole thing wouldn't get in. So that kind of disappeared decently quickly with how long it took the race to get back on going. But a lot of credit for how aggressively safe everyone was.
yeah, agreed.
And now we get Spa next week.
We do. I'm excited to see some
I
F1
don't
cars
I
back
don't
on
have
track.
any predictions except for Max probably throwing something because that's the way the last couple weekends have went. So I'm just expecting disaster and being pleasantly surprised if there's not.
I see a Kimmy comeback. I think Kimmy takes it.
My only real prediction is Solof's probably going to win another race.
That's valid. That's valid. But yeah, I think
And going to Spa, really all I hope for going to Spa is that everyone leaves in the same health that they came in.
it's a super dangerous track.
It is my least favorite race of the year, just because, especially because I watch Formula 2. I worry. I worry every time we go to that track. I unfortunately was one of many who witnessed Antoine Hubert's wreck, and I I was also watching the race when Jack Aiken wrecked the GT, and that thing got torn down to its frame. So I love Spa as a track. When F1 goes there, it scares the shit out of me. So the first thing I'm looking forward to this weekend is just hoping everyone leaves in the same condition that they came in.
Yeah, same. But I think that's where we'll wrap it for this episode. As always, if you like the show, you like what we're talking about, leave a like, a share, or a follow for us. That really helps us out. But as always, I've been Tyler,
I'm Josh.
and we'll see you guys next week. Have a great week. Bye.